Welcome to the Twisted Lens, Episode 10, the Ukraine and the Missed Opportunity by the West. Now this week it will be a little heavy. So before we jump in, I will ask that you hear me out until the end of the piece. Then take a few minutes to consider the ideas before you comment. Well, after that, every context and point of view is fair game because remember, consensus has never, ever been the goal of this series. All right, here we go. Our elected officials seem to be focused on supporting the people of Ukraine while vilifying the people of Russia. Now, superficially, of course, I understand, and yet I don't completely agree. I believe that the so-called West is missing a huge opportunity, an opportunity to display a level of empathy that illustrates, not just pays lip service, to our democratic way of life. Let's twist the lens and let's really see if empathy should be extended to everyone in this terrible conflict. Now, empathy to me is the most powerful emotion a human can possess, one that separates men from beasts and great people from common people. Now, linguistically, empathy means to feel into another's state of mind, not just to observe, but to live their pain or suffering as if it was my own. Now, for much of my own life, selfishness had me looking inward, and empathy has taught me to look outwards. Now, with that in mind, the missed opportunity is the empathy we have not acknowledged often enough towards the loss of life on both sides of this terrible conflict. Not only the tragedy of Ukrainians defending their homeland, but of the loss of life, presumably in the tens of thousands of young Russian men and women being sent to die, and the mothers and the fathers and the aunts and the uncles that are equally grieving as the young people's bodies return home. As an aside, I've had the good fortune to travel much of the world, in fact 54 countries and still counting. My observation has always been the same. People are people everywhere I go. And these days, even the modern cities of the world, well, they're largely indistinguishable, whether it's New York, Paris, London, or even Moscow. In fact, downtown Moscow, it surprised me a little bit, with a Mercedes dealership on one side, a KFC and an Apple store, and every kind of fashion outlet you could ever imagine. It felt like home. And the people, they were kind and considerate. They were friendly and they were proud of their heritage, just like me. They loved hockey and ballet and vodka, and none ever wanted death or suffering of their friends or their relatives. I know. It's almost impossible for me too to feel empathy for the aggressor in any kind of conflict, whether I'm defending my home and my family or my country. And yet somehow I must. Even if I'm forced to injure or kill someone to protect myself, there should be no joy in the act of taking a life that will be mourned by someone who shares this planet with me. Doing what has to be done is one thing. Ignoring the reality of empathy is altogether another. We all watch the same news, and I have not heard our Western leaders even once acknowledge the sadness of the situation on all sides. Such a missed opportunity to show leadership as empathy brings us together and scorn and ridicule divides us. It was Voltaire who said that all killing is bad unless it's done in large numbers and to the sound of trumpets. Well, I'm just going to say that all killing is sad and tragic regardless of the sound of trumpets. And sure, there are those listening who will disagree with me, and that's okay. There are also some who feel that empathy at a time like this is a sign of cowardice or some kind of weakness. But I would say instead it's a sign of maturity. To paraphrase Miss Angelou, when we know better, we do better. And it's time we do better. It's also time the grown-ups from both sides stepped up and put a stop to this madness.